the House panel's UFO hearing taking place tomorrow, more lawmakers are demanding answers on what the government really knows about UFOs. Author and journalist Ross Coulthart, who interviewed one of these witnesses to testify this week, David Grusch, well, he spoke with our producers this morning and had this to say on why the hearings might be different this time. Let's watch.
There hasn't been a hearing into the phenomenon of UAPs pretty much for your and my entire lifetimes. I mean, I think the last hearing was 55 years ago, and it didn't go anywhere because the right people weren't called. This time, you've got a very senior former intelligence officer who worked at the highest levels at the National Geospatial Agency and the National Reconnaissance Organization, and he wants to tell all. And he has claimed to me in interview that he's aware of a non-human intelligence on this planet and that he learned about that during the work that he was doing as an investigator for the UAP task force. And so, yes, he's told part of his story before, but I think it's very important that this is being done before the Congress, under oath, before the scrutiny of the world. I mean, the interest in this hearing is enormous. My phone, my emails, messages haven't stopped. There is interest in this subject like there has never been before, because Mr. Grusch, I think, is prepared to testify about things that are highly controversial. He's alleged to me that people were murdered in order to protect this secret. At least that's the suspicion that he's developed from doing his investigations. He's told me that he's aware of people being hurt by the non-human intelligence that we're aware of. These are incredible allegations, and this is the first time ever in the Congress that somebody who claims to have such knowledge based on speaking with direct witnesses, it's the first time that somebody like this has come forward to give this kind of evidence. That's why it's unique. It's an opportunity for the first time for the Congress to hear the evidence gathered by a Pentagon investigator who wants to tell all about what he says is a non-human intelligence on this planet. I know that sounds insane. I know that sounds ridiculous, but he's prepared to testify under oath. He's already testified to the Congress, and he's also given his evidence to the Inspector General of the intelligence community. And indeed, the Inspector General referred the matter to Congress because he found the allegations made by Mr. Grusch to be credible and urgent. So that's why it matters. It's an opportunity for the Congress to do what the Congress does so well. When there are moments, weaknesses in the transparency and accountability procedures in your great country, as a young lawyer, I learned about what your country does so well, and it holds power to account. And here you have an opportunity for the Congress to test this man's allegations. And I think that's extraordinarily important, because under the gaze of the world, he's going to have the opportunity to put at least some of his evidence that he's allowed to state in public hearings before the committee. And I'm told that he's quite prepared in the right circumstances where he's allowed to, before a secure, compartmented information facility, he's able to testify in more broad terms about the other things that he does know, but which are protected by national security constraints. So that's why it really matters. It's an opportunity for Congress to do its job, hold power to account, and test the allegations made by a former very senior intelligence officer who says he knows about a non-human intelligence. He says he knows about a crash retrieval program of non-human technology, and he knows about a secret reverse engineering program that he claims has been illegally and improperly withheld from the knowledge of the Congress. That's why it matters.
Yeah. Incredible. I was struck by many things he said there, including most notably that people have been hurt, injured by a non-human intelligence. The drivers of the crafts that David Grusch has alleged were recovered. I think it's important to understand the historical nature of the hearings that are going to be held, to actually have people who claim deep personal knowledge of these kinds of crafts or species or whatever it is that was encountered will be vital to hear from.
Right. I remember when I first heard that they were allocating resources to having hearings on UFOs and UAPs, and they were developing this committee in Congress. I was like, don't we have enough problems at home here on Earth that Congress is not addressing? Like, really, we're going to put resources towards this? But the prospect that, potentially non-human pilots on these spacecraft have made contact with Earth, or we've had a dozen or more crashes like the whistleblower has said, that makes this a matter of importance. And I think it's good we have people like Tim Burchett taking it very seriously. I like that it's been pointed out that we haven't had a hearing like this in 55 years. And even that hearing, they didn't call in folks to testify who had, relevant knowledge to really expose things. So yeah, this is historic. And I think I'm excited to hear what they say in their testimony in Congress that they haven't said in their reporting yet.
Yes, because we have heard from these individuals, just not in the congressional testimony framing. And I agree with you that we can do multiple things at one time, right? There's 500 people in Congress. They can focus on different things. We're having hearings on all sorts of government accountability matters related to the weaponization of the federal government, speech issues, civil liberty issues, funding priorities, the secrecy, the accountability of law enforcement, of national security officials. And this is part of that. This is part of the distrust, the understandable distrust the American people have for the expert class of government scientists and advisors, the permanent federal bureaucracy that totally dropped the ball on our foreign policy, that not only screwed up COVID, but probably lied about its origins and downplayed their own role in it. So forgive us if we're not so trusting anymore when they just say there's nothing to this. So yes, we need to hear from the witnesses, and I want to see... Eventually, we got to get to a place where we're not just hearing what these people have to say, their allegations, but actually we're seeing something like the technology itself, the recovered objects or the recovered whatever it is that backs this up. Where are these things? What agency is keeping them? Who's the security guard stationed at the warehouse where our government is keeping these things? Let's open it up. Let's let the people see whatever evidence we have. It's not justifiable to keep this secret.
Yeah, I'm very curious as to what David Grusch will say, because we spoke with David Grusch, and we've been reporting on David Grusch a lot. Michael Schellenberger then followed up and interviewed folks in the intelligence and military community to confirm a lot of what Grusch's claims were, what he decided to speak out on. And I think when you get folks under oath, like when we interviewed Schellenberger, we asked, were there pilots on these spacecraft? And he didn't originally write that in his reporting, but he was like, I did get some confirmation from folks in the military and intelligence community that that was the case. So that's very interesting information coming from them. Here's some more of what Coulthart had to say when we spoke with him this morning.
Yeah. I don't know the truth of all of Mr. Grusch's allegations. I can vouch for him as a person of high reputation. I think almost everybody I've spoken to, in fact, everybody I've spoken to from within his area of intelligence and defense has spoken extremely highly of him. There's nobody, frankly, even the Defense Department hasn't really laid a glove on Mr. Grusch's allegations. They've made a very weak assertion that ARO, the Pentagon's very small, very under-resourced until very recently UFO investigation office, has found to date no credible evidence of ETs engaging with this planet. But that's not an answer for the entire Defense Department, nor is it an answer for the intelligence community, or where I suspect if there is an answer, it's being really held. I think the answer to a lot of this lies in private aerospace. And I suspect it's true that the government many years ago divested itself of this technology and handed it over to private aerospace. And this is why, to a large degree, it's lost. It's a bit like the Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's not lost in a warehouse somewhere in the back of Manhattan. It's basically lost in the morass that is the black world. And the people who instigated the divestment of this technology have largely passed on or gone into a retirement home. And the people who are in possession of the secrets now inside the Pentagon, I actually don't think they're bad people. I think they're wrestling with a decision and they don't know what to do with it. I think the White House is essentially rudderless at the moment on this issue. They haven't shown proper leadership. And I think the interesting thing is Chuck Schumer's legislation. It's actually the first sign that the White House must have been consulted, must have made a decision that, yes, we've got to be seen to be taking a decision on this. And that's why they've brought in what I think is probably the most extraordinary legislation on the books anywhere in the world. You have legislation now that is proposed before your Congress that is talking about non-humans, non-human technology. There is a serious effort inside the Congress to get to the truth of allegations made by Mr. Grusch and other people that there is a secret reverse engineering program going on inside somewhere in America involving retrieved non-human technology. It really doesn't get more mind-blowing than that. And it's fascinating to me as a journalist because we're at a stage where, with the exception of good organizations like you and News Nation, there's been very little media coverage of this issue in the legacy media. They've dropped the ball. And that's largely because a lot of the legacy media is driven by national security correspondents who report on the Pentagon and the intelligence community. And they're largely worried about, how does one say this politely, defecating in their own nest. They don't want to upset the sources that feed them. And this is the issue. There is a genuine reluctance and caution in legacy media that can no longer be explained by the normal ridicule and derision that's been attached to this subject. Because whilst the media is not taking this subject seriously, I can assure you, Congress is. It's got its teeth into UAPs and it ain't letting go.
We will continue following this subject, and we'll have more Rising right after this.